Peace, family. It's your boy Ryan Virden. Let's make sure that these Instagram folks jump on. It is so wonderful to be here with y'all. Thank you for joining me. We're gonna give YouTube a second to let people know we're going live. Let folks on the gram know. Didn't make it on here last week. It was crazy. I was traveling. And it just didn't go down like that. So sorry for that. I know y'all miss me. But thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being here tonight. It really does mean a lot to me. Excited to watch the finals tonight. I'm a little bit hurt, still a little bit hurt at how Minnesota showed up in the Western Conference Finals. I really thought we were gonna have a better outing than we did, but had a great season. Salute to OKC. Chet Holmgren representing Minneapolis out there. So I still can't bring myself to root for the Thunder though. So go Pacers. Go Pacers. Even though they weren't the team I wanted to see come out of the East either. So I'm really kind of just assed out when it comes to NBA right now. That's just all there is to it. If you're joining live, go ahead and jump in the comments. Let me know where you're joining from. Ask questions throughout. This is meant to be a dialogical space. This is the Antidote. This is where we look at current events and we dive deep and we talk about the ways that we are disconnected and how that disconnection keeps us from understanding what's happening. But most importantly, how it keeps us from uniting and making the world a better place. The vast majority of people agree on so much of what the world should be like. And so it's meant to be a space where we have real conversations about what's getting in our way, and talk about what we can do together to support one another. So shout out if you're joining on the gram. You can add a comment there as well. I hope it's working on the gram. It's looking like maybe it's a little slow. What's up, Mary? If you can jump in the comments, let me know you're hearing this. I would appreciate that. And we're letting people get on here. Before we get to our first story, we got a really, really great conversation lined up for y'all. No guests today. It's just gonna be me. You get to listen to your boy talk. But some 3 really good stories. We're gonna talk about what everybody's talking about. The bromance between Donald Trump and Elon Musk has exploded. It's not only over, it is going down in flames. So we're gonna talk about that. You may have seen Linda McMahon of WWE fame in a congressional hearing just fumbled a bag. Like she had no clue about what Black history is. It's not the only thing that she doesn't know about, right? Like she called AI A1 sauce. Just the epitome of white mediocrity and absurdity. And then we're going to talk about a court case that is really, really important that I'm not sure folks are paying attention to. And it opens the door for reverse discrimination lawsuits. And surprisingly, this was decided in unanimously. So all the justices agreed. And it's the case of Marlene Ames. So we're gonna talk about that. If you join and jump in the comments, would love to answer your questions, hear your thoughts, all of that. And we're gonna get it started. So our first story, of course, this is the first story. It's got to be the first story, and that is Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Y'all, so many people said this was happening. So many people said this was going to happen. Why? Because neither one of them has any integrity, right? They don't have any value system that guides them. Their egos are enormous, and they weren't going to be able to coexist. They had, for a brief time, a shared goal, and they worked together to get to achieve that, which was obviously the election of Donald Trump and then the appointment of Elon Musk to Doge, where he could get rid of all the agencies that were holding him accountable, so he could run rampant and all that. But that was about it. Except for, actually, I would say one of the other things that held them together was their white nationalism, right? They're definitely white nationalists and racists. So I think Elon Musk actually has a more pure white nationalist allegiance than Trump. But they're both deeply, deeply racist. So maybe that is a tie that binds, so they say. But either way, the bromance is over. We saw that coming. Trump was out there gallivanting in the Mideast, flirting with Arab billionaires who got that real money, right? And they're not afraid to bribe and all that. So he was out there. Musk definitely didn't like that. And so there was some tension. Some folks were picking up on that. Also, you know, when you got an ego as big as Trump, when folks were saying that the real president was Musk, you know, that didn't land well. But it really hit the fan when Elon Musk tweeted about the spending bill, what Trump calls the one big beautiful bill. That's so corny. God, I just can't believe this dude, y'all. I cannot believe this dude. It's just too much for me. But the one big beautiful bill, and all the groupies that were supporting it, and and you started to see some cracks. Folks like Rand Paul came out and were like, nah, we can't do this. All of that. But then Elon Musk really threw gasoline on that fire. He called it despicable. He called it gross. He said all kinds of stuff, right? He said people who voted for it should be ashamed of themselves. But then he got personal. Today he got personal. And this is what he tweeted. He said it's time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. Oh, the Epstein files, y'all. He said this is the real reason they haven't made it public. Have a nice day. Have a nice day, DJT, Donald J. Trump. And then he kept going. He said, mark this post for the future. The truth will come out. So Elon Musk is not playing. Elon Musk is not playing. He's citing the Epstein files, pointing out the moral vapidity of Trump and just the absurdity of the whole thing, right? Obviously, this dude has too big of an ego and lack of self-reflection to take this to its logical conclusion, which is to ask, what does it say about me that I was working with somebody in the Epstein files, right? That he caped for him for so long. But we're gonna get to that. I promise we're gonna get to that. But this ain't the only tweet or social media post that we're gonna talk about, because you know, y'all's president, Donald J. Trump, was not going. So he says Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. This is, of course, reference to Elon Musk's time and tenure as a special government employee coming to an end, it had to come to an end after 130 days. But there was a lot, like I said, a lot of people were saying that there was tension there. But Trump said, nah, he was wearing thin. I told him to bounce, gave him the boot. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, right? So he's talking about, obviously the CEO of Tesla. That's not good business. And he went crazy. Put that in all caps for you, as this is all kinds of grammatically wrong and all that anyway, but he wanted you to know that Elon went crazy. This shit just makes me laugh, y'all. This shit just makes me laugh. Look at these two goofballs. So this was that. They're going back and forth. Of course, people are going back and forth. And it's just so many people are just enjoying it here for the show. I would love to hear what y'all think. If you're watching live, go ahead, jump in these comments. What do y'all think? What's going on? Did you see this coming? Did it surprise you? But more than that, y'all, let's make sense. Let's make sense of this. We have two billionaires, if you believe Trump. Well, Trump is definitely a billionaire now because his corrupt ass is selling crypto coins and getting jets from, Qatar and United Arab Emirates and all that. But this is what white masculinity does, right? This was the only way that this was going to end, right? And neither one of them have any sort of self-reflection. My grandma would say, have you no shame? They are showing their ass. And the emotional maturity is like at a negative, right? Y'all know I've been a teacher for a long, long time. And this isn't behavior that I would expect from my freshmen, let alone two people who have a ton of power on a global stage. One of them, the most powerful man in the world, if you believe that about the presidency still and all that. But it's undeniable that he got a lot of power. He got nuclear codes, he got all that. And this dude got Twitter fingers like nobody's business. He throws temper tantrums. Both of them throw temper tantrums. And what's crazy is just last week they was all smiling in the Oval Office doing ridiculous news conferences. Trump was selling cars for him on the White House. Musk, of course, spending millions, hundreds of millions of dollars on him being Trump, right? And here we are. This is the only place that white masculinity can take you. A lack of loyalty, a lack of self-reflection, a lack of maturity. And what's crazy is the people, they don't even see what's going on, these two, right? But I really wonder about mega supporters right now. That's what I really want to talk about and talk to. What are y'all thinking right now? When you're watching these two dudes who you put all your faith in, all that, just collapse, right? They presented a united front to y'all, said, oh, we care about the American people. And quite clearly they don't, right? Quite clearly they don't. Musk guts all the agencies that can hold him accountable, takes his supplements and takes his subsidies, his government contracts, and bounces. Trump gets in his fields like I won't even. It's beyond a toddler, right? He's like a toddler, and this dude's supposed to be big and bad and military might and all this. It's undeniable that he's a goofball, and he's talking on Twitter like he did something. And so I really want to know, what do all y'all mega supporters think right now? What is going on in your head? Do you realize you got took? And are you going to break from these two goofballs? Because here on the Antidote, we talk about what we do, right? And it's really, really obvious right now, y'all, what you need to do. You need to admit that you got, right? That got over on you. They preyed on your prejudices. They preyed on your biases. They sold you a white supremacy pipe dream. And now they're coming for you, right? Your Medicaid's gone. Your Social Security's gone. Prices ain't coming down. The climate is jacked, right? Doge done cut all your supports. Plus they're beefing. These two were supposed to have a clear, aligned vision of the world, and where they at now, right? So I don't know how this ends. I really don't. But I want to invite everybody, but particularly if you're watching this because you troll, I want you to pause your trolling for a second. Take a good deep breath and really think about how you got, and connect that to the lie of whiteness and the lie of masculinity. Because all of this is performative masculinity, right? Like, oh, he's in the Epstein files, save this and da-da-da. And Trump did threaten it. Another tweet he put out there was that he should take Elon's government contracts, which of course he should. This dude is running roughshod, getting hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal government and not producing anything. He can't put a rocket in space. He's, was in violation of all kinds of laws across multiple sectors. That was the whole point of Doge, was to get rid of the agencies that were holding him accountable. Now, all of a sudden, Trump want to do the right thing, which is absolutely bananas. And it's not bananas that he is doing that, because that's what Donald Trump does. Anybody who pays attention could see this coming. What's bananas is if y'all fall for it. Is if y'all think this wouldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight looking goofball has your best interest at heart, that he's not just a poor, pathetic, despicable excuse for a human being looking to get over, looking to get paid, then I don't know what I don't know, man. I just don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I want you though to take a look at what this says and take this as an opportunity to do some real deep self-reflection, some realignment. Here to talk to you if you want. I really do mean that. I'm here to talk to you if you want, because I'm not finna close the door on y'all mega people. If this is what it takes, if these two goofballs fighting and bickering for you to see that they ain't about shit, then come on over. If this is what it took, come on over, jump in the comments on one of these videos, hit my email. Let's talk about it, because there's room for you over here, y'all. There's room for you over here. But I was talking to a colleague today about, how many people are going to be realizing like, damn, I got played, or I'm right now, right? And I'm gonna do a special this week on Piers Morgan changing up on Gaza and Palestine, which I'm glad he did. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad he did, but we're gonna come back to that. It's not gonna be on today's show because I want to get some more. But my point is, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to realize you got. But the steps are not to just show up in exactly the same ways, in a different place. We gotta understand why you got, and you gotta switch up. You gotta fill those gaps, right? And that is hard to do when you got goofballs like our next story getting in the way, y'all. So yeah, let me know. And if you're watching this, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on the gram, hop on over to YouTube. It's more interactive over there. And yeah, hit that like, hit that subscribe, share this, all of that. And we're gonna keep it pushing. We're here for not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. We're gonna move on to our second story, which is Linda McMahon. Y'all know her. She is of WWE fame, wrestler, all of that. Vince McMahon's ex-wife. I believe ex-wife. Maybe I'm wrong on that. No, ex-wife. Yeah, I don't. Let me see. Is are they still married? Nah, they're divorced, right? Let me check right now. I want to see. No, they're married. Are they still married? Hold on, yeah. See, this is. I should have looked this up beforehand. They're currently separated. Aha, they're separated. But y'all know, either way, goofies. I'm not going to tell you what she said. So one, she's the Secretary of Education, which is crazy. She's never been a teacher. None of that. She's in no way qualified for that position. As a teacher, I can tell you she's no way qualified for that position. But that's kind of the status quo for Trump administration, right? A bunch of unqualified, subpar, not even mediocre, subpar, trash-ass white people in positions that they are absolutely unqualified for and have no idea what they're talking about. And Linda McMahon is no exception. Again, I said this at the beginning of the show. Some of y'all might have laughed when she called AI A1. There was a lot of stuff going on. She clearly don't know what the hell she's talking about at all. But she demonstrated that again this week. So let me show y'all what she said. Let's just get to it, shall we? Let's get to it. Here we go.
I have a few other examples that I would like to your thoughts on. Simple yes or no. If this is a legal DEI, an example, would you say that it would be an illegal DEI for a lesson plan on the Tulsa race massacre?
I'd have to get back to you on that.
Do you know what the Tulsa Race Massacre is?
I'd like to look into it more and get back to you on it.
Okay, so I look forward to that. How about the book Through My Eyes by Ruby Bridges, for instance?
I haven't read that.
Have you learned about Ruby Bridges?
If you have specific examples you'd like
That
to
was a
provide,
specific example.
I'll be very happy.
It was an
for you-
incredibly
for
specific
you
example.
to submit
I named
those
a
in your
specific book.
questions, and I will look into it and get back to you on
Thank
them.
you.
It just hurts it hurts your heart. It should hurt your heart. All right. So this is she's in a hearing, and she's being asked about Trump's illegal DEI, right? This has been a calling card of the Trump administration. It's a way that he rallies white nationalists and racists and preys on the misunderstanding, the ignorance, and the gaps for white folks who are like, yo, this seems unfair. We want to be treated equal. And for lots of different reasons, don't understand what that is, don't understand what DEI is, don't understand a whole lot of stuff. But it's been a calling card for the Trump administration. And so she's being asked about this as the Secretary of Education. And this is particularly grotesque and offensive because we're just past the anniversary of the Tulsa massacre, Black Wall Street. There was the anniversary, was the 100-year anniversary was not long ago, right? It has been in the news. It's been kind of like the thing that that people point to as like, yo, how did we not learn about this, right? Tom Hanks did a interview about it. It's kind of like it's if you don't know anything, you should know about the Tulsa Race Massacre right now. And the 100-year anniversary was 2021, and we just passed the May 31st was the 104th anniversary. Also, 104, yeah, that's right. Also, the mayor of Tulsa just announced some investment. I'm not going to call it reparations because reparations is cutting a check, and 2 survivors of the Black Wall Street Massacre are alive and deserve checks, and the families that were directly affected deserve checks. So I'm not going to call that reparations, although some people will cut them checks is what I will say. But it's pretty offensive that the Secretary of Education isn't able to speak to this with any sort of certainty, right? And then there's Ruby Bridges. How do you not know who Ruby Bridges is, right? Like, this is wild. This is wild. And I like to think that everybody knows about Ruby Bridges. And maybe she did know. Maybe Linda McMahon did know, but what she also knew is that the answer to that question is yes. That would be illegal DEI. In Florida, they banned a showing of a film that talked about the Ruby Bridges experience, her experience. Now, I wanna remind folks that Ruby Bridges is 70 years old. She's very much alive. She's able to tell her own story, and it is a horrific story. It is one that America should learn from, and not sweep under the rug. And the fact that Linda McMahon can't just say, no, this is not illegal DEI, demonstrates everything you need to know about white folks and this administration and the way whiteness operates. Because also in that back and forth in that hearing, she is asked by Representative Lee if teaching about the Holocaust would be illegal DEI. And Linda McMahon says no. And if it was DEI, excuse me. And Linda McMahon says no, that's not a DEI lesson. And Representative Lee corrects her rightly and says, yes, they are. They are both DEI. Learning about an experience of a specific group of people. She says, is the Holocaust DEI? Linda McMahon says no. She says, is African American history course DEI? She says, Yes. And then they're correct. Well, she actually doesn't say yes, but Representative Lee jumps in and says they're both DEI, and that's okay, right? Learning about specific groups' history is absolutely okay. Matter of fact, we should do that. We should encourage that. We should encourage learning the story of human history from multiple perspectives, right? And there's this idea. Linda McMahon says this. I think she said it today, actually, in the hearing about, well, we need both sides. And the idea that there's both sides to the Tulsa massacre is wild. There is no both sides in terms of justification. If we want to know the both sides, then we need to tell the truth about whiteness, right? We need to be able to say white people were furious, organized a military style attack on a thriving black community in Tulsa, Oklahoma, destroyed over 1,000 homes, killed people, sucked the wealth out of that community for generations, right? And that while that is one of the worst massacres, it is in no way singular. It is in no way unique to the story of America. White folks did this everywhere that integration was happening. In the North, in the South, there's no such thing as a Mason-Dixon line when it comes to racial violence. It didn't recognize that border at all, right? As much as folks in the North wanna pretend like it did. But the reality is, we're not going to tell that story, at least not under folks like Linda McMahon and Donald Trump, because they're very invested in whiteness. And if we tell that story, it will make folks feel some sort of way. But here's the thing, it should. But the end, we also need to understand, if we're going to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help us God, we can also talk about the white folks that stood up against those things. We can talk about the Ann Bradens, the Miles Hortons. We can talk about the John Browns. We can talk about the abolitionists, right? We can talk about folks like Charles Sumner, who was a U.S. senator and was a staunch abolitionist, right? More so than a lot of other folks that we do talk about. We have some tepid abolitionists in our history, like William Lloyd Garrison and things like that. But we have a history. We have a history that we can talk about. Whiteness doesn't like that either. It needs to erase our history as white folks. Our history and our community needs to be centered around whiteness in order for whiteness to perpetuate. We have to believe that if we want to be connected and in community, we have to be connected and in community around the violence of whiteness, around the hatred and the exclusion of others. And that's just not true. And so, Linda McMahon, I got some books you can read. You're not going to read them, but if you're watching this, you might. And so I encourage you, learn about our history, learn about the white folks who stood up to white supremacy, learn about the ways and the systems that were put in place for resistance, and then come be part of community. That's how we respond to things like this, right? I talk a lot about some more frontline ways of responding to the nonsense around education. Hit my inbox, hit my comments, things like that. Let me check these Instagram comments before we head to the last story of the night, y'all. It's a short one. Make sure you check out the rest of the page. We got a lot. I'm really trying to, I say this all the time, I'm trying to be more intentional about building this community up. As you can see, we're not running up the views or anything like that, or the subscribers. I would really like to. So if you're watching this, please share, please subscribe. I'm going to figure out how to do that. I'm going to figure out how to build this community, I think. I hope it's worth it for you. All that. Please go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Honestly, that's the best way to do it. Lets the algorithm know that we're doing something important over here. If you're watching on IG, do the same thing. Do the same thing, y'all. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to our last story of the night. This one surprised me, y'all. This is a Supreme Court decision, unanimous decision. I mentioned it earlier. It's the case of Marlene Ames. Marlene Ames is an Ohio woman who sued her employer for discrimination on the basis of her being heterosexual. She is a heterosexual, cisgendered white woman. And she says that she was passed up for a promotion and then demoted because she was not gay. And the lower courts denied her claim because in some states, if you're a member of the majority group, you have to prove your bar for proving discrimination is higher than if you're a member of a historically marginalized group. And Ohio is one of them states. So it's called the evidence standard, right? And she was working for the Ohio Department of Youth Services. And so she said she was passed up for a promotion and then demoted because she's straight. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0, y'all. 9-0, unanimous. Anytime that this Supreme Court particular, anytime any Supreme Court, but anytime this Supreme Court rules unanimously, you gotta pay attention. You gotta pay attention. Also, let's talk about the last unanimous decision. Let's get Kilmar Abrego Garcia back, please. Y'all goofball, mega idiots. Let's get him back. Anyway, they also ruled unanimously in this case. Here's some important things. One, they didn't rule that she was being discriminated against. I want to be clear. What they ruled was that the evidence bar can't be higher for majority groups than targeted groups, than oppressed groups, right? That to prove discrimination, the bar should be the same. So the bar is pretty high to prove discrimination. You got to prove intent. You got to prove that the bar is pretty high no matter what, right? And if you're a member of an oppressed group, you know that already. The bar is pretty high. And so they didn't rule on whether or not Marlene Ames was discriminated against. They just said that the evidence, the bar for the evidence can't be higher. And so they sent it back to the lower courts to say, hey, with this new guidance, y'all decide. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, on a larger level, this is super interesting because obviously when the Supreme Court makes a ruling, it sets precedent. It's a big deal. It's something we need to pay attention to. And what this ruling does is essentially opens the door for all kinds of claims of reverse discrimination, right? Because if a white person is like, I didn't get this because I'm white, or I'm cisgendered, or I'm male, or I'm Catholic, or I'm all that. Christian, I guess Catholics might be able to make a case on that as a targeted group. You are now able to bring that no matter what in these states, right? And so there's that. Right? So we're gonna get flooded. You can already see it. States are gonna get flooded with claims of reverse discrimination, reverse racism, all of that. It's gonna be a waste of time. It's gonna be a waste of resources. But more than that, here's my concern: is it justifies an ignorance of how systems work and how power works, right? Because we have to be really clear about what we're talking about. Can anybody discriminate? Sure. Anybody can discriminate. You cannot like me because I'm only 5'8". And you can not like me. You can make in your circle of influence, you could make decisions about if you interact with me, things like that, right? If you want to spend time, all of that. What you can't do is create laws that limit my life opportunities. And that is a key point, because isms, racism, sexism, classism, ableism, all of these things are isms because the power of systems, because prejudices that have been acted on, that's what we call discrimination. When you act on your prejudice, have been codified and institutionalized. And so when, for example, a woman makes a claim of sexism, it's not our level of understanding or deciding if sexism is at play can't be that a man says, I hate women and I didn't do this because explicitly because you're a woman. That is too rudimentary. That is too crude. That's not sophisticated enough. It's not nuanced enough to adequately address sexism. The same goes for racism, right? A person of color cannot, and I don't even like that. A black person should not be limited in their claims of discrimination or their claims of racism operating, should not be limited to say only when you have overtly and explicitly said you hate me. Because why? Because people with power have realized they don't need to say those things, right? Prejudice, we're all prejudiced. We all have prejudices. We have control over our actions, right? So we cannot discriminate. Even if we have a prejudice, we cannot discriminate, right? But more than that, even if we're discriminating, we cannot justify that discrimination through institutionalization, through our systems, right? If for no other reason than you can take action that's discriminatory without ever openly and explicitly stating your prejudice, and you wouldn't be able to do whatever you want to groups of people, right? That's the problem. That's how whiteness operates. What we got was a bunch of people for a couple decades after civil rights, and it was like, yo, you can't say the N-word, you can't openly discriminate, you can't do this. And so people said, I ain't gonna do that. We ain't gonna talk about it. We're just gonna move in this way. And so this is my point. And I don't know that I don't know that I'm saying we shouldn't legislate or we shouldn't have some accountability in that process, right? But what I am saying is that if we don't actually address the root of the problem, if we don't actually address the prejudice, right? And if we don't make room in our analysis for understanding how a prejudice is influencing people's actions, then we are never going to approach a just world. We are never going to approach a peaceful world. I teach the intro course of Justice and Peace. And this is the number one thing that I talk about, is if we can't address what's called cultural violence, which is our ideologies, right? Our prejudices. If we can't address those, we have no hope of realizing justice and peace, because everything we do gets filtered through our worldview. Every piece of information we take in is filtered through a worldview. And if our worldview is one that's prejudiced, and there's not even an attempt to mitigate that prejudice, to clear it a little bit. Imagine looking through a windshield and it's all dusty and muddy and all that. You don't have a clear view of the world. And you might never get a spick and span windshield, but you can clean off enough to see a little bit. And you could clean off a little bit more and see a little bit more clearly. And you could clean off a little bit more and see even more clearly. And you might even go to a car wash or a detailing spot and get your shit right and tight. And now you can see clear. There still might be a little something here and there, but you can drive safely without causing an accident. And that's the work that we need to do. And that's the work that DEI practitioners are doing. That's the work that's telling the truth about our history does. That's the work that anti-racists do. That's the work that feminists do. That's the work that socialists do. They work at disrupting and clearing our windshield so that we can understand how our systems have codified prejudices and have normalized discrimination without ever having to say, I'm discriminating against them. I hate them. As a matter of fact, here's my thing. I want to say this, and then I'm about to jump off because it's getting late. I said this was going to be a short one, and here I am 40 minutes in. Most of the people that are operating, that we're so entrenched in these systems, and this has shaped so much of what we consider normal, that most people don't even understand their prejudices. That's the first part we have to talk about. We have to talk about our prejudices, and we have to do so in a way that doesn't blame them for having them. Because it is impossible, particularly in America, to grow up without prejudices, particularly against women, black people, native folks, against queer folks. All of these, all our systems, our mainstream society has normalized discrimination and othering of those groups of people for so long that you might not even know you got a prejudice against them, right? And I'm not advocating for no touchy-feely, abstract, pie in the sky trainings about mindset and implicit bias, although I think those are important. I think we should do those, but they need to be attached to some real shit that dictates policy. And that's where we need to be at. And we were on our way there. That is why this pushback has happened. That is why Trump is working so hard in this way. That's why his administration is doing this. It's because we were making progress, and we can still make progress. My good people, we can still make progress. I want to say that just keep working. Again, working at relationship. Relationship is how we make progress. So if there's somebody in your life that you notice their prejudice, holla at them with love, with loving accountability. Ask them questions, right? Acknowledge your own prejudices and how you became aware of yours, because we all have them, y'all. We all have them. And that's where we start in that interpersonal conversation. And then we don't got to change everybody's hearts and minds. It's not a hopeless thing. We don't got to change everybody's hearts and minds. We just got to decodify those things in law and policies and practices. Y'all, you can keep your prejudices. We're gonna make it not okay to act on them. And our default is going to be, yeah, man, I need you. When you do call, when somebody says, I think you're acting out of prejudice, I think this is an ism, I think this is discrimination, our default is going to be, yeah, we're going to have enough people to know this is how this impacts behavior. That's where we need to get to as a world. All right. Let me check these comments. If anybody's got any questions, throw them in there. It's good to be here with y'all. I don't see none. Give it a couple minutes. Did that game start already? I don't see none. All right, y'all. Well, this is gonna do it for this week's episode of the Antidote. If you're catching this live, hit that like, hit that subscribe. We had a few people jump on. Appreciate y'all. Again, please like and subscribe. It really, really makes a difference. We do this every week, Thursday nights, 8:00. We do this. I'm excited to do this. Follow on social media, all that. Tell your friends. We try to have meaningful conversations here. Thank y'all for being here. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, share, tell your friends. I really, really appreciate it. I would love to get to 100 subscribers by next week. We were at 80. I would love to get to 100. Let me hit that little bitty milestone, that little baby milestone. So if you're watching right now, please share, please subscribe. Most of all, find some love in your life, take care of yourself, and work at being in a right relationship. Peace, wonderful people.